逆にエロい。
理由はよろしいので。
なぜ脱ぐ必要が？
生殖という行為をして初めて母乳は母体から湧き出すものでしょ。さあ、私に種付けしてください。
Our story begins with the cry of a little child. This child is the protagonist, Haruto. His father tells his mommy milker that they should declare that the prince died at birth. Upon hearing this, Haruto becomes anxious, thinking what the is going on, that he had just been reincarnated and he will now have to die. Then, we are shown how all of this came to be. Haruto was a lonely, disgusting, isolated loser who lost hope in his life because of severe bullying. The bullying affected him deeply, and he became a shut-in, leading a miserable life. One day, he closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them again, two big, bouncing, mellow, a goddess stood before him. Then he realized that he died at the room lonely. The goddess assures him that because he wasn't all that bad in his past life, she'll send him to a world filled with magic, adventure, and sexy escapades. Darkness shrouds our hero, but it's not the darkness you're thinking of. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's just a tunnel leading to his new fantasy world, okay? As he emerges into the light, he realizes that he has been reincarnated into this new world. His father, the king of this kingdom, confirms that he is undoubtedly their child, as indicated by the lion heart symbol on his body. Haruto's mother blushingly affirms that he is indeed their child, and assures the king that she could never cheat on him, as Haruto was a prince. He thought he will finally live a peaceful life. But then the king eagerly orders the court magician to bring the magic measurement device to test Haruto's magic power. He anticipates immense magic power, expecting the result to be 40 or even 50, given that he himself is the strongest in the kingdom. But to everyone's surprise, Haruto's magic power is revealed to be only 2. The king wondered how the heck she gave birth to such a useless child without any power, and realized that Mommy Milkers was probably sleeping with Yamcha. Haruto realized he was about to be screwed, and his parents decided to tell everyone that he died during childbirth. This was even worse than his previous life, and the king commanded his army to throw the child away somewhere deep in the forest. Meanwhile, the angel realized that she overpowered him to the point where no one could measure his true power. In their world, their devices can only measure levels under 100, but she had set his power all the way to 1002 and forgot to give him an element. As the scene shifts, we find Haruto alone in the midst of the forest, annoyed and frustrated that he has been left here all by himself. However, upon realizing that the court magician mentioned his ability to use barrier magic, Haruto decides to give it a try. He concentrates and envisions a cube, and to his surprise, a holographic-like cube materializes before him. Excitement fills Haruto as he realizes that magic is not as difficult as he initially thought. He decides to push his abilities further and enlarges the cube, then changes its shape into that of a bird. He watches in awe as the bird takes flight, fluttering its wings freely. Haruto then creates a barrier around his body, rendering it invincible, and attempts to control the cube, suddenly finding himself flying and feeling very happy. However, Haruto's happiness is short-lived as a large beast, a wolf, suddenly appears from behind and launches an attack on him. Fortunately, due to the protective barrier, the wolf is unable to harm Haruto directly. Determined to defend himself, Haruto conjures multiple cube barriers and hurls them at the wolf. Unfortunately, none of them did any damage, so he tried using something bigger and pulled up 7 trees from the ground, throwing them towards the wolf. However, it was still able to stand after all his strikes. So the little fire decided to drag an entire hill towards the wolf. Surprisingly, the wolf becomes fearful and starts screaming, begging Haruto not to harm her. To Haruto's astonishment, the wolf can speak and communicates with him. The scene then shifts, revealing the wolf explaining to Haruto that she had intended to devour him in order to replenish her magic. However, she had underestimated Haruto's incredibly strong magic power. The wolf, now speaking in a more gentle tone, asks who Haruto is and where he comes from. Haruto attempts to speak, but being a baby in his new form, he finds himself unable to form words. In a sudden realization, an idea strikes Haruto. He creates a small cube barrier linked to his mind and projects it onto his throat, connecting his mind and voice. With a surge of power, Haruto speaks for the first time, leaving the wolf utterly shocked. Once again, she asked him who he was, and he introduced himself as Haruto and explained how he was abandoned because of his low magic power, but the king. However, none of this made sense to the wolf because she sensed a massive amount of mana that exceeded human limits and wondered if he was the demon lord reincarnate. Haruto decided to hide the fact that he was an ugly, lonely loser in his previous life and claimed that he was the demon lord. It all made sense to the wolf, so she begged him to kill her as she lay on the ground. However, Haruto assures her that he has no intention of killing her and starts moving. Suddenly, the wolf stops him and lowers her head in reverence, addressing Haruto as her lord, expressing gratitude and offering herself in service to him. "You dirty minder, not her body, her health in general." But then, Haruto falls to the ground and requests breast milk, as he hasn't consumed anything since birth. Understanding the urgency, the wolf enters into a contract with Haruto and transformed into the hottest fox girl alive. Haruto realized this was going to be an amazing new life, but he wanted to keep this video monetized, so he gave her a Catwoman outfit and realized that she looked even hotter than before. He was ready to get some milk, but Flay revealed that she would need a different kind of milk before she could produce her own milk. Hearing this, Haruto realized how the hell will he deal with this dumbass, and she apologized for being useless. Then suddenly a middle-aged man appears from behind. The man said that the child belonged to one of his relatives, so he had come back to save him. Flay wondered why he would come back for a person they abandoned, but he told her that he had come to bring him some milk from the finest milkers in the kingdom, and Haruto told Flay to take it. However, Flay thought this was an attack on her milkers because she couldn't produce milk. But Haruto begged her to take it already because he's starving. The man told her that he doesn't care about her milk-producing abilities, he just wants to feed the child. Flay wondered why he cared about a child that's not his own. However, the man clarifies that he isn't evil and that the baby is his relative who had been discarded. He had come to rescue him. The man emphasizes that while the child might be considered useless to the king, he means everything to him, as even after doing it every night with her wife, they would not produce any baby for years. Hearing this, Frey bursts into tears. The man then suggests that if Frey doesn't want to be separated from Haruto, she could accompany them as a maid. After contemplating the offer, both Frey and Haruto agree. 9 years have passed, and Haruto is now living a peaceful life, just as he had wished. He sits at the dining table with his new family, reflecting on how he had contemplated running away from them initially. However, his new mom and dad loved him so much that he couldn't bring himself to leave. The only challenge he faces is that his sister appears to dislike him. Later on, Haruto engages in a conversation with his mother, expressing his concern about his sister's apparent dislike. His mom told him that he could just create something special for Charlotte, but if he really wanted to make her happy, he should stop staying locked up inside his room and touch grass instead, and stop being an ugly, lonely, disgusting loser shut in. As he lays in bed, he sees the clone he made. The only thing left was to give it consciousness, and as he touches his clone, he realizes it was too real. Then a sinister thought came to his mind. What if he was to make a clone of Frey and do something Then his father called him to the training ground. Curious, his father asks what he wants to do in his life, and Haruto was about to say shutting himself in, but decided to say that he wanted to study mythical magic instead. His father remarks that this explains why Haruto spends hours in his room. Before Haruto can finish his sentence, his father abruptly stops him and tosses a wooden sword towards him. His father challenges him, stating that Haruto can only go to his room if he manages to land a blow on him. Haruto realizes that he has no other choice but to face his father, who is known as Warhammer and is one of the strongest individuals in the kingdom. Haruto strengthens his body with a barrier and charges towards his father with incredible speed, surprising him. He launches an attack, but his father swiftly dodges, causing Haruto's sword to strike the ground and create a large hole. Witnessing this, his father becomes greatly shocked with a serious expression. His father counterattacks, wielding his sword with remarkable speed. However, Haruto leaps high into the air, evading the attack effortlessly and giving the impression of flying, leaving his father even more astounded. The training session concludes, and the scene shifts to Haruto's parents, discussing his exceptional strength in a serious tone. His father suggests that Haruto may be a demon, as his strength is unbelievably extraordinary for a human, and he found Haruto in the forest with that demon girl who follows all Haruto's commands. His mother reminds them that regardless of his nature, Haruto is still their child, and they will love him unconditionally. His father agrees, and they both reaffirm their love for Haruto. Unknown to them, Haruto's sister overhears their entire conversation. We see Haru relaxing in his room when suddenly there is a commotion outside. He uses his barriers to see what's going on, and we observe a bunch of injured soldiers. Haru asks his father about what happened, and his father mentions that their lands have been getting attacked by thieves. They found the base of the thieves, but even after being prepared and careful, Gordo and his reinforcement ended up getting injured badly. Gordo is really upset at this moment. He feels humiliated that such skilled warriors were beaten by a random gang of criminals. He blames himself for having the urge to capture every single one of them. Moreover, he finds this situation demoralizing for him. Gordo feels sorry for Haruto for witnessing such a sight at a young age. Little does he know that the boy literally came from the dead. Anyways, he tells Haruto to go back home because he believes that the kid might get frightened by this scenario. Haruto gets pissed at the situation, though he starts to walk back. Moreover, Flay starts to wonder what Gordo was doing when the soldiers were getting massacred by a bunch of thieves. Surprisingly, Haruto tells Flay to shut the flap while giving an outrageous dark aura. Flay doesn't say a single word after and starts to follow Haruto. However, Haruto starts to heal everyone as he walks by. He even recovers their damaged eyes and dislocated legs. Hence, the soldiers start to cherish while Haru's father wonders what's going on. At night, Haru wakes up and he sees Flay has been waiting for him. She doesn't dare to talk, and Haru realizes she is still following his previous order. He apologizes for losing his temper and allows her to speak again. They head outside, and Haru uses his barriers to look for the thieves that attacked his father. He quickly finds them and plans to wipe them out as he uses his barrier to fly to their location. But at that moment, we see Charlotte watching them as they leave. We observe the thieves celebrating their victory while their boss discusses their plans to return to their homeland. Haru suddenly appears and he instantly freezes them with his barriers. One of the men tries to talk back, but Haru blows him away. The boss ends up confessing everything, revealing that they are actually soldiers from the neighboring empire. Their goal was to cause chaos in the kingdom, and they even revealed they had someone helping them on the inside. Haru wonders if there is someone after his father's life, but the men don't know anything else. They ask to be spared, but Haru tells them they messed up by attacking his father, so Flay ends up burning the entire base. He sends an anonymous letter to his father about what he learned. His father is surprised to learn that the Empire is involved, and Charlotte wonders who took out the bad guys. He can tell that it must have been Flay's doing. Charlotte suddenly gets up and explains there is somewhere she needs to go as she leaves the office. She thinks about what she saw the previous night. She asks Flay if there are two Harus, but Flay is confused about what she is talking about. She reveals she saw them leaving, but she knows Haru shouldn't have enough mana to fly. So, she checked his room and found his claws sleeping in his bed. She notes that it didn't have his usual scary aura, so she wonders what it all means. Flay is impressed to hear that Charlotte can sense her brother's strength, and she explains just how powerful he really is, but she tells her not to think too much about it. Flay ends up reporting her encounter to Haru, and he can't believe she has already found out about his secret. He decides to set up extra surveillance on her so he can keep tabs on what she is up to. Over the next few days, we see Charlotte following him around no matter where he goes, even when he's in the bath. When he tries to confront her, she just runs away. After a week, we learn that his mother and Charlotte are going on a trip to the annual festival. Haru tells them they should take Flay along, but his mother mentions that Flay hasn't been around. Haru remembers how he told Flay to intimidate the monsters in the forest so they don't attack any towns. And later that night, Haruto's surveillance magic alarms him that Charlotte and his mother are in great danger. Turns out a bunch of bandits have attacked them. Natalia makes a run while holding Charlotte, while her soldiers try to hold those thieves off. The men chase after them, casting their magic, but Natalia manages to block it, though she gets hit in the leg. Charlotte suddenly hears a voice and directs her mother to run. Natalia wonders who's giving the directions, but they end up at a cliff. Charlotte tells her to jump, and they manage to make it down by using magic. They find a cave, but Natalia thinks it's too bright to be able to hide. Natalia decides to go out to find the person who is giving them directions, saying they must be a hero of justice. She tells Charlotte to stay quiet and quickly heads off. As she leaves the cave, the entrance is hidden by some illusion magic, but at that moment, the soldiers catch up to her. Natalia thinks she can't let herself get captured, so she prepares to take her own life. However, her blade suddenly shatters as Haru arrives just in time. He gets pissed off at the situation and instantly blows all of the soldiers away. He calls out for Charlotte, telling her to take care of her mother, but she is terrified, feeling his aura. She realizes he must be her brother, so she forces herself to see him. Haru is surprised to hear her calling his name, and she asks if he is a hero of justice. He is confused by the question, but he decides to play along and says yes, he is. Charlotte gets excited, thinking he uses his powers to defeat bad guys just like Mother used to tell in the stories, and Haru just agrees. She apologizes for not realizing his true identity, but Haru tells her she needs to keep it a secret. At night, Haru's father receives a report about what happened, and he wonders about the mysterious person who has been helping them. He asks Haru if he has any ideas, but he just says that the person should stay on their side as long as they behave. Charlotte and Natalia return, and Charlotte instantly hugs Haru. She tells him how much she missed him, and their mother wonders when they became so close. Charlotte refuses to explain, but she just says that she loves him now. Haru is happy about this, but Flay seems to get jealous of their new relationship. After that, Charlotte would barge into his room every day asking to play, and he now has trouble dealing with her because she likes him too much. She wonders what he is doing, and he tells her he's keeping watch with his surveillance magic. She is impressed he can use ancient magic, calling him amazing, and Haru says it's hard to learn since it's a lost magic. But Charlotte mentions that she has seen records about it, and she ends up taking him to their castle archive. Haru is surprised to learn they have such a huge library, and Charlotte helps him grab some of the books. Haru learns that his barrier magic is considered ancient magic, and he is surprised Charlotte has been reading these books. He thinks they would be too difficult for her, but she says that their father would normally read them to her. She tells him to do the same, sitting on his lap, and Haru gladly plays his role as her big brother. They read that there are some gods that can travel between worlds, and Haru thinks it sounds like a story from an anime. He wishes he could watch anime in this world, and Charlotte wonders what he is talking about. He thinks she wouldn't understand, but she insists on trying her best to listen. He explains it as drawings that can move, and he gets excited talking about it. Charlotte seems shocked, and he thinks she must think he's weird, but she wishes that she could also experience it, and she's happy that he seemed so passionate about it. So Haru decides to find a way for them to watch anime. After 2 weeks, Haru manages to get access to the internet from Japan, and he finds that his old Netflix account still works. He creates a kid's account for Charlotte, and he lets her choose what she wants to watch. She picks a show about a magical girl, and she is amazed that the drawings can really move. She finds it amazing, but she isn't able to understand Japanese. Haru thinks it would be hard for her to learn a language, but he believes she should be able to manage since she's still young. He starts teaching her the alphabet, and he is shocked that she seems to have learned it after only 2 hours. After another 2 weeks, Charlotte barges in wanting to watch the latest episode of her favorite show. We see zombies in a city, but the heroes of justice fight them off. As she watches the show, it seems she has mastered Japanese just by watching anime, and Haru wonders if she's a genius. He's glad she's having fun, but he thinks he needs to be a good example for her. She finishes watching an episode and wants to move on to the next one, but Haru stops her, saying she is only allowed to watch for 3 hours a day. Charlotte is devastated, wondering why he would do this to her, but he claims it's for her own good. They have dinner together, and Charlotte seems to be nodding off. Their father wonders what Charlotte has been doing in his room, and Charlotte says they've been busy researching ancient magic. Their mother is happy to hear they're working together. After dinner, Charlotte follows him around, but he tells her she can't watch any more anime for the day, so she should just take a bath and go to sleep. We see Haru taking a bath, and Charlotte ends up joining him, even though they're both children. He feels like a criminal. Suddenly, he notices Charlotte staring at his small PP and realizes she's staring at the symbol on his chest. She seems to believe it's an emblem of the allies of Justice and Haruto. He tells her to keep it a secret. They say goodnight, and Haruto goes to sleep in his bed. However, just a few seconds later, he finds Charlotte cuddled up right next to him. He notices his mother looking in through a slight opening in the door, and she's proud that her children get along so well. MC just wants Charlotte to let him sleep in peace. The next day, their father leaves to subdue some thieves. and Charlotte worries for his safety. She gets depressed, but Haru tells her not to be worried, saying their father will be fine. Charlotte tells him he should use his powers to fight the bad guys, begging him to go, and Haru has no choice but to agree. She tells him he needs to transform just like in the anime, so Haru ends up putting on a disguise. Haru gets embarrassed, but Charlotte thinks he is so cool. She wants to go with him, but he says it's too dangerous, making her depressed. However, he gives her a way to watch his heroic deeds, and he quickly heads off. He looks around for the thieves, finding them in a cave, and he uses his barrier magic to seal them in. This would usually be enough, but he thinks he should put on a show since his sister is watching. He arrives at their location, and the thieves wonder who he is. He calls himself an ally of justice, but when the men try to rush at him, he's able to easily beat them all up. However, he makes sure to go easy since Charlotte is watching. At that moment, his father arrives, wondering who he is. He makes up a random name, and his father wonders if he's the mysterious person who has been helping them out. He wonders what his goal is, and Haru just explains that he's carrying out justice. He gets embarrassed with himself, so he quickly runs away. He can't believe himself, but Charlotte tells him he was super cool, wanting to see him fight again, and Haru can't believe he has to keep doing it. But he ends up making a name for himself and becomes known as the Black Knight. After some time, Haru seems to have perfected his clone thanks to the books from the library. His clone is now able to speak, but it acts too much like him, and it's just as lazy as him. Charlotte wakes up in his bed, and she is confused seeing the two of them. They get called for a meeting, and Haru thinks his clone can go in his place, but his clone refuses, and Haru realizes it's useless. Their family goes out to greet their guests, and they meet the royal prince and princess Elias and Marianne. Haru wonders if they are real siblings, but Elias is stuck up and super rude. Marianne tells him to behave, but Elias says she can't boss him around since he's going to be the next king, so they aren't on the same level. Haru can't believe he is so terrible, but Elias calls him out for staring at him. He knows Haru is only level 2, so he decides to teach him a lesson, challenging him to a fight. Haru thinks it's going to be a pain, but Elias thinks he is afraid, saying he will hold back. Haru checks his level, seeing he is level 9 with a maximum of 40, and he compares it with his father and the princess. Elias charges at him, but he easily dodges him. Elias tells him not to run away, so Haru uses his barrier to protect himself. He lets the prince beat him up, but Elias tells him to fight back, so he instantly attacks him from behind. Elias gets back up, but Haru just keeps knocking him down. Marianne doesn't believe he is only level 2, but Haru's father just calls it a mystery. Elias refuses to lose, attacking with a fireball, but Haru absorbs it with his barrier. The prince keeps on attacking, but his spells have no effect. He wonders what's going on, and Haru reveals that he absorbed all the fireballs, wondering if he should return them, and Elias falls to his knees. Haru lets him off the hook, and he is just glad it's over. Marianne apologizes for her brother, and she wonders if he is really level 2. Haru confirms that he is, but he quickly excuses himself as he heads back to his room. He wonders if this incident will cause his real parents to come looking for him. In the castle, Charlotte was watching live surveillance footage when she noticed something strange in the middle of the forest. She immediately reported it to Haru, who took a look and realized that it might be some burglar. Haru noticed that Charlotte had been really into patrolling the property lately, thinking he was too busy to notice. Inside their room, Flay approached Haru and asked if he was hurt. She had heard from Charlotte that he had been fighting wrongdoers alone. Flay offered to help him in his heroic work from now on and requested to accompany him. Charlotte also liked the idea of Flay joining Haru, but he thought she might get in the way, as he was a powerful hero. He suggested that Flay should focus on the tasks given by their father, the Castle Lord. However, Flay countered by saying that she had already finished cleaning the entire courtyard and even dealt with some demons in the area. Haru now wondered how to come up with an excuse to avoid taking Flay along. Charlotte got all excited and imagined Flay as a hero, fighting bandits alongside Haru, just like the stories she had heard. Flay agreed to join Haru, knowing she might not be as strong as him, but still wanting to help. With both Flay and Charlotte pushing him, Haru had no choice but to accept Flay as his partner. He spoke privately to Flay and asked her to be less aggressive in battles to avoid showing any violent scenes to Charlotte. They began their journey to find the 4 burglars. Meanwhile, the burglars were happy with their recent loot of Fortune 0 Aka and felt they wouldn't go hungry for a few days. Suddenly, Haru made a grand entrance. introducing himself as the Dark Warrior of the World, with Flay posing as the Red Warrior. The burglars were puzzled by these newcomers. Flay immediately tried to use her fire magic to burn the burglars, but Haru stopped her just in time, reminding her not to show any violence in front of Charlotte. However, Flay didn't understand and continued with her fiery attacks. Haru had to create a barrier to protect the burglars from her magic. Flay tried to break the barrier with even stronger fire magic, but Haru stopped her once again. Frustrated, he told Flay to go back home, but she thought he wanted to take on the burglars alone, so she stayed behind. After dealing with the burglars, Haru returned home exhausted and lay on his bed to rest. However, Charlotte came to his room and praised both Haru and Flay for their fight against the bad guys. She wanted to see them fight again, even though it had just ended. Flay promised to put on a good show next time, but Haru decided he would never take her along again to avoid tarnishing his reputation as Charlotte's elder brother. Meanwhile, Charlotte was teaching Flay a special move to use against the bad guys, giving her detailed instructions. Haru couldn't handle the foolishness anymore and wished for a peaceful life again. On the other side, Crown Prince Leia was frustrated and humiliated after being defeated by Haru. He questioned why things turned out this way, as he was supposed to be the next king, inheriting the bloodline of the Shining Princess. Leia had only wanted to show Haru's family how powerful he was by picking a fight, but it backfired. He wondered how a level 2 mage like Haru could be so strong. The minister called Leia for dinner, and though Leia didn't want to go, he reluctantly dressed up and headed to the hall. The minister suggested that Leia invite Charlotte to tomorrow's convention, so he could have someone to talk to on the journey. But Leia insisted that he didn't need to talk with others. The minister made it clear that it was His Majesty's direct orders, leaving Leia with no other choice but to comply. At Gold's castle, it was dinner time, and Charlotte called her big brother, Haru, to join her. She apologized for not knocking, but Haru was used to it, and silently went to the dining hall. Haru noticed the luxurious dishes, and his clone complained about working tirelessly all day. The clone felt useless, and went to sulk alone on the bed. Haru continued with his meal, thinking it was normal behavior for the clone. Charlotte informed him that she received a personal invitation from the prince to participate in tomorrow's inspection. Haru couldn't allow the prince to be around his little sister, so he decided to attend the inspection as well. At night, he pondered on how to prepare for tomorrow. He started by investigating the travel route for any potential traps. During this investigation, he spotted a large group of evil mages using a summoning circle, and it was clear to Haru that they were up to no good. Haru decided to personally investigate what the mages were trying to summon. He disguised himself as the Dark Warrior and headed straight to their location. He approached one of the mages and asked them about their purpose there. The other mage became hostile, mistaking Haru for an imposter, and they attempted to attack him. However, Haru swiftly defeated them with his extraordinary magic, making it clear who was in charge. Even though one of the mages survived, he sacrificed himself to complete the evil summoning circle, bringing forth dozens of undead soldiers. But Haru remained undaunted and skillfully slashed through the skeletons with his sword. Despite their attempts to surround him, Haru proved to be the strongest. Not giving up, the evil mages summoned a giant rock golem to attack Haru. However, he quickly identified the golem's weak spot, attacked its spirit core, and managed to control both the skeletons and the golem. Haru then captured the entire group and demanded to know their motives. The leader of the group remained silent, so Haru threatened to bury them alive if they refused to speak. As the mages pleaded for their lives, their leader finally confessed that they were part of the summoner unit working under the Elder Princess. They had planned to disrupt the upcoming inspection scheduled for tomorrow. Haru asked the leader why they would plot something so sinister, and the leader revealed their plan was to assassinate Charlotte Zephyrs. Haru couldn't understand why the Elder Princess wanted to harm Charlotte. He realized that the Elder Princess must have seen Charlotte as a threat, considering her potential to surpass even the royal Elder Princess. Finally, Haru understood the reason behind the Imperial soldiers' attack on his father, mother, and Charlotte. The Empress was willing to do anything to protect her position, and because Haru's family was considered a potential threat, she wanted them gone. Haru initially vented his anger on the leader, but he knew going berserk wouldn't solve anything. He decided to handle things calmly. The next day, Haru and Charlotte went to the inspection with the prince and princess. Charlotte mentioned how the prince, Leia, had lost to Haru the other day. Haru tried to ease the tension caused by Charlotte's words, but it only angered Leia further. Leia eventually calmed down and brought up the fact that Haru didn't use any elemental magic during their duel. He questioned if Haru was the reincarnation of a demon since there was no other explanation for his magical abilities. Haru was confused and turned to Charlotte, asking her to explain what demon reincarnation meant. Charlotte explained that if a demon and a human got married, their offspring would have a low chance of displaying demonic traits while looking like a human, despite having demonic powers. Marion, the princess, added that these demi-demons possessed extraordinary athletic abilities and powerful magic. However, seeing that Haru didn't have horns or any other distinguishing features, Marion didn't believe he was a half-demon. Charlotte felt the need to share her thoughts about Haru's physical body and proudly mentioned how his skin was smooth like butter and described it as delicious. She revealed that they often showered together, and by seeing Haru's body, she confirmed that he was not a demon. Upon hearing this, both Leia and Marion didn't know what to say, and both of them became shy. They teasingly called Haru a lolicon and a degenerate for showering with his own sister. Despite Haru's attempts to explain, he knew it was pointless and chose to remain silent. Confused, Charlotte asked Leia if it wasn't normal for siblings to shower together. Marion tried to explain that showing each other's skin had a deeper meaning between men and women. However, before she could continue, she became overwhelmed with emotions. Thankfully, the conversation ended as they arrived at their destination. They were greeted by a vast golden wheat field that amazed them with its beauty. Charlotte excitedly ran into the field to have fun, and Marion followed suit. While they enjoyed themselves, Haru took the opportunity to speak privately with his father. He revealed that the elder princess wanted to assassinate Charlotte. Gold informed Haru that he already knew about it, as the Dark Warrior had sent him a message the day before about the evil group of mages planning against Charlotte. Haru suggested getting rid of the elder princess, but Gold disagreed. He explained that the country currently needed the elder princess to secure the ill king's position. If she were to die, it would lead to civil strife in the country. Haru's father shared a story from 12 years ago when the king led a crusade force. One of the members, G. Saladi, bravely defeated the demon king all by herself. As a reward, the king married her, and now she's becoming the elder princess. However, Gold believes that the elder princess is driven by greed and wants the kingdom for herself. He is hopeful that everything will change once someone stronger stands up against her. Haru suggested that Gold should become the next king, but Gold admitted that he wasn't skilled in politics or ruling the country. Instead, he believed that Charlotte would be better suited for the role and hoped that one day she could lead the country. Gold asked Haru to protect Charlotte until she becomes the queen. So, the episode ends here. If you would like me to continue the series, please subscribe and comment part 2. Thank you for watching.